What's up Flutter aliens, welcome back to another video of Flutter and Firebase Developer Bootcamp's week 4. So if you are new here, please check out the full playlist link in the video description. Also join our WhatsApp community to be updated with the latest updates on eTech portal. Anyways, in the last video, we have finally completed writing backend for chat feature and now it's time to bind it back to the UI. So we will start with loading the context from Firebase in the context page. But before that, I want to tell you something. Along the time while developing WhatsApp clone with me, if you face this exception in the place where you are retrieving the data from Firebase Cloud Firestore and it's saying could not reach to Cloud Firestore backend connection failed 1 times and also saying something like permission denied. So all you have to do is to recreate your Firebase project and you're good to go. So if you have set up your Firebase project with Flutter Firebase CLI, so it is far more easier for you as compared to the manual creation of the project or the apps in the project again. Simply you have to run the Flutter Fire configure with your project ID and simply you have to override all of the generated files like the Google services JSON inside the Android and also the Firebase options inside the lib. Here you can see it's modified so it looks like this. So I have to commit this change while pushing code to the GitHub. So after this has been done, the error will be fixed and you will be able to load the data from the Cloud Firestore database or deal with other operations of Cloud Firestore database. So we were about to load the context in our context page from the Cloud Firestore. So the context page is inside the app feature and inside the home we have the context page, where currently we are loading the context from the phone by sending the request there and fetching all the context from the phone. So we are going to have the context from the Firebase and they're going to have the data like that. So I'm just going to collapse this block builder and simply copy it and paste it down here and select them all and go for comment them out and simply write up here the logic to fetch contexts of the phone and simply do a fix me in here to make it highlight. So later if you need this code, so you can simply take it from here. I just keep it like that, commenting out, and here now we are going to use a different block builder. So the previous code is also in here. So you can take it easily from here. So the get device number qubit will be converted into user qubit and the user stat and the user loaded, and the context will be changed to users since the loaded stat has the users, not the context. So the rest will remain the same and the user entity don't have the photo and we don't have the type of the photo like event at list or something like that. So we are going to remove this image memory from here and we are going to use the profile widget here and simply inside the image URL we will pass the contact.profile URL and that's it. And instead of loading the first name and last name, we will simply delete everything from here except this contact. We will do contact.username in here and remove this const from here because this is going to be no more constant, and we will copy this and paste it inside the string of this and simply change it to status, and that's it. Now we have to change the invocation of the function here to get all users, but first we have to change the user qubit get all users. And since we don't have any users inside the application except only one user, which is our current user, so when we navigate to this page it will show nothing. So we also have to add one check in here. Right after this we can say if the context dot is empty, means there is no user except our, simply we will return center child simple text of saying no context yet and put the semicolon here, make it constant because there is no changeable data in here which can be changed when we press Ctrl S, so it will remain the constant and will in result improve the performance of the application. So it's better to put the constant where the change of the widget is not required. So after that, Ctrl S to hot reload, and since we have added the invocation or changed the invocation here, so we have to hot restart the application to make it work. So once the application hot restarts, you have to move to the context page, and here we can see our user in here. So this must not be like this. There must be all the users displayed in the context except ours. So there are different approaches to achieve this. Like you can go to the remote resource implementation of the user and simply the method here in the data layer here inside the user remote resource implementation, while get all the users is called, we can pass the user entity or UID in here and simply run a where query in here, and we can say where the UID is not equal to the UID, and it will fetch us all the users where the current UID is not equal to the UIDs. So it will simply ignore our user while getting all the other users in the context page. So this is one approach to do this, and the other approach is in the context page where all the users are loaded, we can directly do where, and simply this element is the user, and we can say where the user.uid is not equal to the widget.uid, and the widget.uid is going to be the UID that we are going to send from home page to the context page. So we have to do some modifications in the pages. So we will do final string UID and pass it. Okay, let's pass it in the constructor, remove this debug, and that's it. Now there is still an error in the context. Okay, we have to convert it to list also. Now it's fixed, and the error occurs in the routes on generate routes, and here we also have to pass the arguments in here. So we have to simply check a condition. If arguments is string, then simply return this material page builder with the argument passed without this constant keyword, and when the argument is not passed, simply we can return the error page like that. Now from the home page, while navigating to the context page, here we have the navigator push name to the settings page, and from the floating action buttons down here, we are navigating to the context user page. Here we have to pass the arguments. That would be widget.uid, our current user UID. And here we still have an error. That is, we have to pass the arguments instead of the UID. So the error will be fixed, and now we are sending the current user ID in here and simply running the where here to fetch us all the users where the UID is not equal to UID. So simply it will ignore the user fetching with that UID, which is our current UID, and will fetch us all the other users, and based on this the conditions will be checked and the list view will build its item like that. So now if I hard to start the application and then I come here to the context page, so there we will see the result of no context yet instead of seeing our users directly in here. So this time if we navigate to here, we got no context yet. But you can also follow the other approach that I show you, doing a where in here and simply checking the condition inside the backend. So this would be more efficient, but this is also the way, but this is an inefficient way. So I'm going to give you a task to just put the query in here in the remote resource implementation and simply pass the argument to the method we have created in the repository of the user. Here, get all users, simply pass the argument in here string UID, and based on that take the decisions in the remote resource implementation, and while calling the method in here, simply inside the context page directly pass the UID inside here, and you don't have to run this where again. So this would be the task for you, and I'm just doing it like this, leaving you this for you as a task. So that's how the context will be loaded. So since we don't have any other user inside the application, so we will see no context yet. And now we're gonna go and log in with phone number to have one more user in our WhatsApp clone. So you'll go back and then go to the settings and simply log out from here. So the user is logged out from the application. This time if I hot start the application, I'm not supposed to navigate to the home page, but I must supposed to be remain in the login page, or we can set a welcome page where we can, when we do agree and continue, we will be navigated to the login page, putting our number in here. So I just add another test number inside the phone authentication. Here in the sign in method, I add one more number with the same structure, with the same OTP. Just instead of 41, I'm doing 42, and the 2 at the end is the same. So now I am going to sign in with that number. So 03, 01 and 424242 3 times, and lastly the 2 also. Go for the next and put the OTP in here from 1 to 6 and next. And this time I will name this as John, and go for the next, and the user is signed into the application. So if I go to the Firebase, go to the users, and here we go, we got this, and the cloud Firestore database, we got one more users with different ID with name John, and we can go to the settings and we can see we got the data like this. We can edit the profile also. So now we are on the other users log in inside our WhatsApp clone. This time if I go to the context page, you can see we got the other users but not our data inside the context. Now this is the time to load the data in the chats page. So the difference between loading the data in the chats page and inside the context page is that inside the chats there will be only the users that I have chat with. At least I have sent only one message, so it means that user will become my conversation and will be displayed in the chats. Otherwise, if I have not chat with that user, so simply he will remain in the context. So if I keep creating other users inside my WhatsApp clone, so that will keep coming in the context but will not be inside the chats page, because there will only come the users to whom I have chat with. So I'm gonna go and call the methods or the qubits inside the chat page. So here above the list view, we will wrap it with the block builder and not the provider, so will be the block builder, and the subject is going to be our chat, and that's it. Change the block to the qubit and go for importing them. Once they are import, simply check a condition. If the stat is chat loaded, then we have to return a list view, and in the else we can simply copy the circular progress indicator from the context page and simply paste it in here outside the condition. And when the chat is loaded, we can simply fetch the MyChat in the variable chat context, and here we got the list of chat entity in the stream, which will be updated in the stream when we chat to the users. So the recent text message will be updated this way and will be reflected directly when the users start chatting with each other. So the recent text message will be updated and we will see the results live, so we don't have to hot start or close the application and open it back to see the results changed. So the stream is making it easier for us to see the updated data directly reflected on the screen. So we got the MyChat, and this MyChat is the list of chat entity. So we will do MyChat.length, so to load all the chats or the conversations that I have chat with in the chat page. And that's it. Now we will have to retrieve the data. First we have to fetch the single chat inside the list view builder. So we will do single chat equal to MyChat on index. So we got a single chat. This time we can fetch the data from it, like we can set a sender, not the sender name, but this will be the recipient name, and remove the constant from the title, also from the subtitle, and here will comes the conversations recent text message, and the date time that now would not be like that, but the chat dot created at dot to date, and put the assertion operator in here so we can say that it won't be null, and the rest will remain the same. Now we have to convert this into stateful widget, and inside the init stat we have to call the method from the qubit. So we will do block provider of context of the chat qubit, and from the chat qubit we will call get MyChat, which requires the chat entity, and inside the chat entity what we have to pass is in the data remote, in the chat remote resource implementation we can do Ctrl F to get MyChat, and we have to pass our sender UID to fetch all of our chats inside the MyChat. So the sender UID is, as I told you, will be the current user UID, so we will simply do chat entity in here, and the sender UID will be the widget.uid, which we are going to send directly in here as we have sent to the context page. So we will do final string UID, and then like this. So we got the UID, and in the home page this time we don't have to deal with any routing stuff because we are not navigating specifically to this page like putting in this tag, so we are not doing this. So simply we are just returning this in the tab bar view, so we can directly pass the UID in here, so it will got the UID like this. We have to remove the constant and put the constant for the other, and these are also going to require the UID, so later we will also remove the constant and will pass the data in here, so we will be no more prompt to remove the constant from here. So the UID was required and we have passed it in here, and now it will load all of the chat conversations of the users that I have chat with. So currently the snapshot data will be empty, so it will return nothing. So I have to check a condition also above the list view builder of the MyChat if the MyChat is empty. So what I'm gonna do is to return no context yet or no conversation yet, we can say. So simply we can return this by changing its name, and we can say no conversation yet. This time if I hard start the application, so all the dummy users data will be removed and I will get no conversation yet because I have not started chatting with someone up until now. So we got some loading indicator when the data was loading, and we got the no conversation yet, and that is an expected result up until now. Now we have to move to the SingleChatPage and start dealing with loading the messages of the specific user in here and then sending the messages like that. So to navigate to the SingleChatPage, we are gonna need the data of the sender user and the recipient user. So the single chat page is going to accept the final message entity, and we will name it message, and we will pass it in the constructor like this, and this is going to be required in the onGenerate route. So what we are gonna do, simply the same thing will happen. We will copy this area from here, paste it in here, change the arguments to the message entity, and change the page to the single chat page, and change the current user to the message, and pass the args, remove this dead code from here, and that's it. The error is fixed. Now while navigating from chat page, we have to pass the arguments, and the arguments would be the message entity, and with the message entity we are going to send some arguments to the single chat page. The arguments would be this: the sender UID, recipient UID, sender name, recipient name, and their profiles. So that's all we need in the single chat page. So simply we are sending them in the chat entity, and from chat entity, not the chat entity but the message entity, and in the message entity, since we have sent the data inside this fields, so simply we can load it in here. Like we can say the username, so we can simply do widget.message.recipient name. So when we go to someone messages page like single chat page for chatting with them, so simply their name will be loaded in there above in the app bar. So we have to remove the constant from here to make it work, as it's the dynamic data, so it cannot be constant like that, and the const will be only the data that is not changeable when we hot reload like that. Support the const only for the online, and we are also going to deal with the online and offline status after some while. So after this has been done, let's hard restart the application, and we are now going to navigate to the single chat page of the user that we have in the application. So we are now currently signed in as John, so we will go to the context page, and when we click this, so nothing will happen because we have to do the navigator push name and sending the data also in the context page. So this is only done currently in the chat page, so we don't have any users in the chat page, so we also have to do the same thing in the context page to make it work. So we have to copy this navigator from here and go to the context page, and in the on tab of the list tile we have to paste it in here, and the page const is going to be, let's import it, and the message entity will be the same. So now from where we will take the sender and the recipient data in here. So what we can do in here is to wrap the block builder with another block builder, and this is going to be our get single user, and this is going to be single user qubit, and we have to import this, and we will check the condition. If the stat is get single user loaded, then we will return the block builder. Otherwise, what we will return is the same circular progress indicator if no of the stat is emitted. So we got this circular progress indicator when no of the stat is emitted in the single user qubit, and this time we're going to call the block provider dot off context with the get single user qubit, and with the get single user qubit we will pass the widget.uid to just fetch us that single user on that specific UID that we just provide to the get single user. So it will get us that user, which means that the get single user will give us the current user, and here we will store this current user in the current user equal to stat dot single user. So this must be inside the loaded stat to make it work. Stat dot single user. So the single user is now our current user, and the other user is we already have, since we load all the users in here except ours, so we got the data of current user in here. So we will do sender of the current user dot uid, and the recipient ID will be the contact dot uid, and the sender name will be the current user dot username, and the recipient name will be contact dot username, and the sender profile will be the current user dot profile URL, and the recipient profile will be contact dot same profile URL. So the data from the contact page will be passed to the single chat page like that. So after that, simply again how to start the application. Since we have added the provider in here and another block builder, so this is going to require the hard restart to reset everything and recreate the widget trees to make these all these methods work. So this time if we navigate to the context page, and here when I click this user, so I am navigated to his single chat page, and you can see we got his name in here, and currently we have these dummy message which are in the static list. And yes, we are now going to load the messages also in here. So we don't have any messages yet, so simply for now we can simply put the builder in here to load us the messages. So since there is nothing, so simply no messages will be show up in here until we send one. So we are gonna go down here in the body. We will wrap this gesture detector with the builder, and we'll do message qubit to load the messages in here in the body of the single chat page. And we will check if the stat is message loaded, not loading but the loaded. So we will return this body. Otherwise we will return the same thing that we were returning in the context page, the circular progress indicator outside from this condition. That's it. Now format the code, and then simply inside the init stat of this single chat page we have to call to the method of block provider.ofContext with the message qubit, and we'll call the method get messages, and the message is going to take the message entity. And this is the time to again locate in the chat remote data source implementation. While getting the messages, we are required to pass the sender ID and the recipient ID to load that specific recipient user messages in the single chat page. So we are required to pass the sender ID from the widget.sender ID, widget.message.sender ID, and the recipient ID will also come from widget.message.recipient ID. So all the messages of that recipient user will be loaded in that page. So it's time to again how to start the application, but the result will be the same because we have to modify the list view where we are loading the messages. So the list view is here. So this is going to be no more the static list view with the messages like that. So we will remove this message because this is also our message, and this is the other user message with the central lift specifies that, and we will remove this one also. And we will keep these messages, we will based on the condition of the current user and the other user, we will display the messages like that. So simply we will cut them from here and paste them outside from the list view, and we'll comment it out. So the children will be removed from here, and the list view will be converted into list view builder, and this is going to take the item builder of context and index and is going to return the messages layouts based on the condition. But let me pass the item count from the messages here. We will load the final messages equal to stat.messages, and we got the list of messages in the stream. So we will pass the messages start length in the list view of the messages, and in the return we will simply uncomment them and cut them, and we'll paste it in here, and we will check the condition in here. If the single message sender ID was equal to the current user ID, so we will display this message means that in the right side, and if it was not true, we will display a message here at the left side. So first we have to fetch the message in here. Single message equals to the messages on index, and the message, we will check if the message dot sender UID is equal to the widget dot message dot sender UID, which is the current user ID. If the sender was the current user, we are simply saying that we will return this message layout. Otherwise, we will return this layout. So this is all what is going to happen, and the message will be the message we sent, and the timestamp will be the created at, and for the same for the other one, the message will be the message sent, and the time will be the message dot created at. And for the other fields, we will decide for them later if required. For example, for is seen and the is show text will remain the same, because for the other user we are not going to show the text, but the text will only be showed with the current user message, so that's why it's here true. And the long press will be able to delete a message, and the on swipe will be allowed to show some other interface to reply to the user. And we are also going to do this, and we'll send different types of messages in our WhatsApp clone. So this is all what we are about to do. So now the list view is dynamic. It will load the messages and will display if we send one. So let's how to start the application. And again, when we come here, we will test that like what's happening in here, the code we write, what's the result of that. So no conversation yet. Let's go to the contacts page, navigate to the one single contact, and there are no messages yet, so it's not displaying any. So this is what we wanted to achieve up until now. So now is the time to load, not load, but send a single message to the other user to see all the code in action of the send message that we have written in the chat remote data source implementation. So to send a message to the other user, we're gonna have a message method in here. So first we are only gonna try to send the text message, and once it's sent, we will also look around the way to how we can send different types of messages, like sending a video message, GIF, and also the audio. So this is what we are gonna do right now. So inside the send message method, we will call the send message method from the message qubit, and the chat will be the chat entity and the message entity, like that. And now we're going to pass the parameters to them to send a message properly to the other user. So for the chat entity, we will pass the sender UID with the sender UID, the recipient name and the profile, and the created at will be timestamp.now, and the total unread messages will be 0. And the sender recipient name will be adjusted accordingly, as I explained in the previous video, like how in the models we were creating for the sender user and the other user. So in the sender user model, we had the sender, and in the other model we had the sender recipient, and all of the IDs, names, and the profiles were just the opposite of the first one. So to make the difference between the two users that are chatting with each other. So here we have to directly pass data, and in the backend it's dealing with it, as I show you in the previous video here in the chat remote data source implementation. While sending a message, the chat model is configured as, you can see sender is a sender, but here the sender is the recipient, so it's managed like that. So the chat entity got the data. Now in the message we have to pass the parameters also to this. For example, the sender will be the sender, recipient, sender name and recipient name, and the message type is going to be text message for now, and later we are also going to deal with this. And these fields will be sent as empty for now and will be dealt with later while we move to the reply section. And is seen will be false when the message is sent, default is seen will be false, and is created will be the current time, and the message will be the message coming from the message controller text field. And when the message is sent in the then method, what we are gonna do is to set the stat and clear the message controller. So when we send a message, so that this field will be cleared right away. And now we are going to go and call the send message in the field where we have this. So we are gonna do widget and gesture detector on tap. We will call the send message like that. Now let's check up everything. Is it perfect? Yes, the parameters seems to be correct. We are clearing the controller, and let's start to start the application, and then we are going to change, not to change but to test the send message of our WhatsApp clone that we have written the methods for, and now is the time to test it also. So we are gonna go to the context and here and open up the field, and let's say I say hi, and when I click this, the message is sent, and I'm expected everything correct also in the backend, and it must be correct since the message is sent and there is no errors in the console. Let's say another one. Let's say what's up and send. The messages are sending directly without any errors. Now it's time to test the backend also to see if it's as expected as we thought it to be. So here's our Cloud Firestore. Let's reload this tab, and it's reloading. Inside the user feature, users collection, inside the John user, we got the MyChat. In the MyChat, we got the other user ID that we sent the message to. Inside that user, we have its data, and inside that we have the messages. Two messages will be here. Yes, the first one is hi, and the next is going to be what's up, and the same data will be inside the other user, which is my name, and we have the MyChat, and here will comes my ID and my name. This time I'm recipient, and his messages and the IDs of the messages that we have sent. Now let's go back, and we got the conversation here when we sent a message. That's great. Now if I click it again, we got its messages. So the messages has been sent successfully in our, and we have done it all the way with clean architecture. So this is a great achievement in here in our WhatsApp clone. So now we are also going to test the real-time messages. So since we don't have any other mobile where the same application is running, so I'm gonna connect my real device with it and also run the same application in here and test the real-time messaging in here, and then we will go for sending different types of messages also in our WhatsApp application. So this is going to be very interesting. So I got the same application running on my real device. Now this time I have two debug consoles, one of the Pixel 34 and the other my real device. So simply I'm gonna go and open the recording in that device, and here we go. So here I have the John login. On that other device I have the user login with my name, so he has the conversation cam in the chat page with the John. So let's open up for both the single chat page, also for this one, and you can see the one message has been sent, the other at the left side, which means that he received the messages from the John. So let's say he replied back with hi and sent. He received the message directly in here in the stream, which means that it's real time. So let's say he's saying how are you, the message sent, received, like that, and he again say I am fine, thank you. And he received the message like that. So that's how the real-time messaging is working, and now we are going to go and implement the sending of messages of different types. For example, sending the image message, video message, also a GIF message, and lastly sending the audio message. So I'm gonna stop the recording in my real device for now, and if it's needed, I will open it right away. So now in here, when I go back, you can see I have defined thank you, which is the latest recent message I sent. So that's how the recent text messages are updating, and we can chat in our WhatsApp clone that we have created with clean architecture. So to send different types of messages, we have to create a common for this send message method, because at the end we will come up with the result that we are still sending a message, but just their type is different. So the same method will be called for each of the type of the message that we are sending. So we are not going to repeat the same line of code of sending message with different type, with just changing the message type constant. So for that we have to create the chat utils and separate the data in here, and simply the same common method will be used, and only the type is going to be different for sending different types of messages. So what we are going to do in here inside the presentation, we will create another directory with the name of widgets. Inside the widgets, we are going to have the chat utils. And don't ask again and cancel, because I'm going to push it later to provide the latest code to you. So inside the chat utils, I will do create a class with the name chat utils, and simply create a send message static method in here with the future void return type, and we are going to pass the build context because we are going to call a method from the block provider. So it's compulsory to have a context of build to call the qubit method in here. Then we have to change only these 5 parameters while calling the send message method, and the rest will remain the same. For example, every time when we call the send message, so this data will remain the same and will not be changed, and the message type will every time change when we call the send message. For example, calling the send message with different type, GIF, audio or video, like that. And the replied message, these 3 parameters are for the reply, sending the reply to other user. So we are simply checking the conditions since we have passed them as nullable. So we are checking them if they were null, so which means that when we call the send message method and we don't pass them right away, so they will directly come as empty strings. And in the chat entity, you can see we are passing most of the data from the message entity, and we would have end up passing that again and again if we would not create the send message constant common method in the chat utils. So that way we have separated the data and will call the send message method with just specified types and deal with the different types of messages to send it in our WhatsApp clone. So that's what we need to do before moving to the step of sending different types of messages in our WhatsApp clone. So we will navigate to the SingleChatPage and remove the boilerplate code from here, this block provider, but instead what we're going to do is to do chat utils dot send message. The context will become the context, and the message entity will become the direct message entity, and the rest of the methods were nullable. So we will pass them in the parameters of the send message and pass them to the send message method we're calling from the chat utils. And every time now when we call this method, so we have to specify the message and the type. These are the required parameters, and the others, if specified, will be passed like that. If not, simply will be empty string like that. So we got the common send message in here with more short data. Now there is an error, so which means that we don't have to pass the send message directly in here, but we are going to create these separate more methods in here of send text message, send audio message, send video message, like that. So now for sending the text message, we will do send text message method, and this is going to simply invoke the send message and passing the text and the text message type to send the text message. So the send text message, you can see, become more shorter than it was before. Now here we will send the image message. So how we are going to do this? We are going to have a method of send image message, which is doing storage provider remote data source and doing the upload message file, where it required the message type and the user ID and the other user ID and the image that we have picked. And then when the image is uploaded to the cloud storage of Firebase, simply we then are calling the send message, the same common method, where this time the message will become the image URL and the type will be the photo message. So later in the message layout, this method, we have currently simple text, so we are going to create the message widget in here. Inside that, we will take the decision based on the condition. If the message type was equal to text message, simply we will display the simple text. Otherwise, we will use some methods like image network, cache network image, or the video players to load the videos, audios, and all of that stuff like that. So this is going to be modified after that once we are done with writing the methods. So we got the send image message. The next method is going to be send video message, which is again calling the upload message file, and we are passing the video. So we are going to create the methods for picking the video and image after that, and then it's calling the send message with the video URL uploaded, and the message type will be the video message type, so that we know this is the message type, and based on that we know what widget we have to load to play or pause the video that we have sent. So the send message video message will be like that, and after that we will send the Gif message, where we are awaiting the pick Gif method, passing the context, and we are checking if the Gif was not equal to null. We are creating the fixed URL, retrieving the ID from the Gif, and simply sending the message with the fixed URL and passing the message type as Gif message. And this pick Gif is going to be inside the constant app constant here, this method, which is returning the Giphy Gif and taking a build context to pass it in here, and the Giphy picker. And we are passing the API key in here. I'm going to tell you from where you can take the API key, but first let's go to the pubspec.yaml file, and simply you have to comment out this enough Giphy from here, and simply uncomment the Giphy picker in here and pubget. Once it's done, you have to go back to the app constant and import the Giphy picker, and we are done with this. Import the material.dart for the build context, and in the SingleChatPage we are going to import the picker pick Gif like that. So this is send Gif message, video message, image message, and now let's create the methods for the picking the image and video on top here. So this is going to be our two methods of select image, which after selecting an image will be stored inside the image variable, and this is select video, which is picking the video and storing in the video variable, and then we are using that files down here for the send image message and send video message. And now is the time to do configuration for sending an audio message. So to deal with that, here we have to do some initialization for audio, and we also have to add some permissions inside the info plist file and also the Android manifest XML file. So we are going to use these three variables in here. The Flutter sound recorder is coming from the package of Flutter sound recorder, and the rest two are the boolean variables. And inside the init stat, we will initialize the Flutter sound recorder and open audio recording, which is going to be a method like that. What it is doing is that from the permissions microphone, it's requesting the microphone access and checking if it's not granted, simply throwing an exception, my permission not allowed. Otherwise, it's awaiting the sound recorder dot open the recorder and setting the is record initialized to true. So that were the initial step that we need to do in here. And now based on this is recording here, while sending the message here, after this we will check if is recording was true. We will show the icons dot close to stop the recording, otherwise to the recording. And here in the send message, text message, we have to check the condition if is display send button was true, which means that we are going to send a message. Otherwise, if it was not true, what we will trigger on the send text message, that would be decided in the else condition. And inside the else condition, we will first do to prepare the path for the audio. First we will get the temporary storage, and from its path we will do flutter sound dot .ac, and if the recording was not initialized, we will simply return to not go forward with the other methods. We will also make it asynchronous since we are doing creating the temporary directory. And the next step here will be if the recording was equal to true. So what we are gonna do is simply stop the recording and upload the recording to the Firebase cloud storage as the audio message type and send the message as audio message. Otherwise, start the recorder. So what basically we are doing in here when we are not sending a message, and you can see this is the display and the is play button, this is false. So when this is clicked, initially the is recording is false by default. So when is clicked, so it will come all the way down, and since this first condition is false, so the else will be executed and the start recorder will be called with that audio path. And when it comes all the way down, it will set the is recording to true. So we will see this cross icon in here, which means that we are now recording our voice. So when we say something and record that voice, and when we click back on that icon, that close icon, so when this is executed, the call flow will come in, and this time the is recording was true when this method was called after that. So it will stop the recording, will upload to the cloud storage and tag the URL, send a message with the type of audio message. So this is all going to happen when the send text message was called. So now it's time to call all of these methods in the UI to see different types of messages sending in action. But before doing so, there is few things that we have to deal with. First is when we send a message, we want to track the bottom so that it automatically track the bottom while scrolling, so we don't have to scroll up and down like this to see where is the latest message sent. And the next thing that we need to consider is to create the message type widget, where inside that we will pass a type of the message, and based on that specific type we will try to display messages based on their types. As I said previously, if we have sent it a video message, so we have to create something like that. So there must be buttons to play and pause the video that we have sent it to the user. And if it's audio, then what will be the scenario like this? So we need to deal with these two things before calling them in the UI. So now let's go and first let's say call this method here while sending the message above this here. So this is not going to require any parameters. This will send the text message but also audio. if we directly click it, but since we don't have any UI for that in the message layout, so it will directly load the URL of the audio that is uploaded to the cloud storage of the Firebase. So we need to tackle with this also after we track the bottom. So we will go at the top in here, and right after this in its stat, we will create a method scroll to bottom, which is using this scroll controller, means this scroll controller, and checking if has clients, then we are delaying for 100 milliseconds, and we are animating to the max scroll extent of the scroll view, and we are passing the duration to 300 milliseconds and ease out. And this delay before animating to the max scroll extent is because when we send a message, so its rendering takes some time, so we need to wait a little bit, means 100 milliseconds. So when this rendering happens, then this will seamlessly navigate us to the bottom, so like that we will track the bottom. So there are different places where we will be calling this scroll to bottom. The first place is in the build method. We will do widget bind instance.add post frame callback, which means that when the current frame is rendered by the build method, simply we will call this scroll to bottom every time with the build method. For example, when we open up the keyboard and we are up there, so the place taken by the keyboard will be directly adjusted with the messages like that. I'm going to show you how this is going to look like once this is completed calling the scroll to bottom in the specific places. And also the scroll to bottom is going to be called in here in the send message. Once it will be called in here before the send message, and once it will be called after the send message. And when we come to directly scroll to the bottom, here we have to call the same method that we have called in the build here inside when the stat is loaded. So we will do it like this. So when we come to this page, this will directly scroll to bottom when the messages are loaded. So there were some issues with the internet connection, and I restored this application by stopping the main dot and running it again. And this time if the application runs and I came to the SingleChat page, since I have added the request permission for the microphone, so you can see it is saying allow WhatsApp to record the audio. So what I will do is I will do while using this app, so this will allow the permissions. And we were about to send the messages to see how the scroll to bottom method is working. So I'm gonna open this field, and let's say I'm sending H 4 times, and let's say G just for completing filling this area so that we can test the scroll to bottom. And let's say send some more messages. Is it scrollable? Okay, it requires some more messages to be sent. Let's say 2 more, and now this is scrollable. So once this has been done, we also have to pass this scroll controller to the list view builder controller, and like this, so that it knows which area it needs to track when a message is sent. So this time we will hard start the application, and once it hard starts, simply you can see we got the latest message sent on 5 AM and now it's 5:01, and it's the recent text message. When I came to this conversation, it will directly scroll the bottom as you have seen in here. But if I am here and if I open up the keyboard, so it will directly track the bottom like that. But if I send one more message, let's say hey, and do send, it will track the message like that. So that's what I was talking about of tracking the bottom when the message is sent. Or if I go back and come to the SingleChatPage again, so that was tracking the bottom. Now it's time to go and add those message widgets and some other bottom navigations for example, when I select the image or sending the video, so how it is going to look like as a preview. So first of all, in the global inside the widgets, I'm gonna add 4 different files in here, and I'm also going to explain it that what this is going to be used for in our WhatsApp clone application. So these are the 4 files that I was talking about. First is show image and video widget, show image pic widget, show video pic widget, and also the video widget. So this show image and video pic widget is not going to be used in the chat feature, but will be used in the status feature. So this contains the code something like that. I just added, you can also read by yourself, but I'm going to explain it whenever it's time to use the show multi-image video pic widget. So in the chat feature, the widgets that are in use are show image pic widget and show video pic widget. So the show image pic widget is nothing but a simple show image pic bottom model sheet, which is showing the model bottom sheet is scroll control is true, which means that it will take all the area available, which means that full screen. Is it dismissible? No, it's also not dismissible when we drag it down like that. If a bottom sheet appears, passing the context from the method, it is accepting the file and the on tab callback and the recipient name. So it is returning the container here and a stack with the background color. The alignment of the stack is in the center, and it is displaying the image directly as a profile widget, which is also dealing with the file. Since we have passed the file in here to this, which is accepting the file, it's not the image URL with the profile widget. So this is also dealing with this, so we have passed it directly in here. And simply these are just the align methods just for showing that close, crop, and emoji and text and write something. So this is just for creating the view of that preview that we have in the WhatsApp. And this is also the place where we are displaying the recipient name to whom we are sending the message, and this is the button which when clicked will send that specific message or that specific message of image to the user. So this JS director will not be over the row but will be here on this container on tab. So that's it for the show image picked widget, which is simple bottom model sheet for displaying the image preview when one picked from the gallery. And the show video picked widget is the same bottom model sheet, but it's dealing with the video widget, and the rest things are the same. So what is this video widget? That widget, what it is doing, it is simply receiving the file, and here the video player controller is declared with the let variable, and its play is set to false by default. And since we are going to play a video to show the preview of the video that we are going to send to the user, so this is basically for this purpose. So we simply receive the video file in here. We are initializing that file with the video player controller, and when it's initialized, we are doing set stat to update the UI, and in the stack we have center alignment, and we are directly doing if the controller value was initialized, what you have to do is put the aspect ratio widget, and the aspect ratio will be the aspect ratio of the coming from the controller, which is 16:9 of the video and the video player, and we are passing controller so that it will give us where we will be allowed to play or pause that video. And the play and pause video functionality is implemented here in the align of the stack. Here is the icon button. If it was playing, we'll pause it. If it was not playing, simply we'll play directly like that. And here we are setting the stat. Display is not play, which means that every time it's called will set to false, and if it again called with false it will set it to true. So it will be true and false like that to indicate the stat of the video, if it's playing or not. And if its play was true, we will show the pause circle. If it was not, simply we'll show the play circle with the size 40 of that icon. So this is what video widget is, simply for playing and pausing the video and displaying that we have selected and about to send to that specific user. So these are the basics widgets that we'll be using while sending the video or image. And then we are going to have some message widgets inside the widgets of the presentation layer of the chat feature. That would be these three widgets. The first is message video widget, and the other is message audio widget, and the message type widget. We have these conditions exist where we are checking the conditions. If a specific types came in, what we have to display accordingly. So inside the message type widget, we are accepting the type and the message. So we are checking if the text message received in the message type widget was equal to message. Simply display text and nothing else. If it was photo message, simply put a container, give some space from the bottom, and put the image profile widget and pass the image in here to load that from the URL. If it was video message, what we are doing is simply returning the cache video message widget, which is this widget, cached video message widget. It's taking a URL and doing the same thing, but using the cached video player, which is similar to the video player but also caches the video so that we don't have to load it every time a call is made to the specific URL, which is already cached. And it's doing initializing the video controller with the network and passing that URL that is coming here from here when we call it in the message type widget here. And we are setting the volume to 1, disposing also. The aspect ratio is here of a video, and the cache video player passing the controller and simply controlling the play and pause stats of the video. That's it for the video. And if it was GIF message, simply displaying the cache network image and the URL of the GIF. And the audio message, we are displaying the message audio widget, which is a bit different from the video. Simply a field of is playing to false, is audio player initialized. And what we are doing in here, we have the button in the row at the left side where when is playing. If the video was already playing, simply we'll pass and we'll set the state of is playing to false. And if it was not playing, simply we will do audio player that set URL of the upcoming URL from the parameters and then set the state to true. And when this video completes playing, then we will set it to false and we'll call the audio.stop. So this is the functionality. When we play an audio and it reaches to the end, it will stop and we will be allowed to play it again. So this is the logic of that. And yes, you can improve it more if you want by making it very similar to the actual WhatsApp clone. And after you did it, please also let me know in personal message like in the Instagram or LinkedIn, or directly let me know in the comment section that what you have done while dealing with the audio message widget. So that's it. That's what I'm doing in here to make a simple audio message so that we can play and pause and deal with the stats of the audio. And the icon is simply deciding when it's playing, show a pause circle, otherwise the play circle. And here, just to also track the indicator, the progress of the video, like how many progress up until now has been done, as how many progress I have watched that audio. To show that in the stream, I put the stream builder in here and retrieving the position stream from the audio player as duration. And I'm checking the condition. If it has the data, means the audio is playing. So what I'm doing is giving some margin to the container from top and specifying the width of the container as 190 and the height 2, just creating the small indicator. And the linear indicator value is taken by the snapshot data milliseconds to double and the audio player duration in milliseconds to double, so that we can calculate the data like how much progress has been done of that audio we are playing. And the value color will become equal to white, and the background color will be the gray color. Otherwise the value will be 0, which means not playing, and also for this case. So this is what we are doing for the audio message, and that's it. In the message type widget, we are returning the audio widget, and the text is like that. In the else condition, we are also returning the text. So that was the widgets that we needed to add to display which specific message is sent, and also for preview, these are the global widgets. So that's it. Now these will be used inside the single chat page here. So first of all, we will do it for sending an image. So to send an image here, on this icon inside the field, which is the suffix icon of the field, here it is. So we will wrap this with the gesture detector, and on tap, what we are gonna do in this on tap is we are calling the select image method, and when the image is selected, in the then method, when this was completed, we are checking the condition if the image picked was not equal to null, which means that the image has been picked. So what we are gonna do is doing widget binds instant.add post frame callback to display the image pick bottom model sheet right after the image has been selected, and passing the recipient name and the file, and when the tab is clicked, we are sending that image message, and simply navigator.pop has been called to remove the bottom sheet from the view, and then we will be navigated back in the single chat page, and then we will see how the image message has been sent. So that was it for selecting an image and sending an image message. Now for video, what we are gonna do is to call the video in the place of this video in that attach window. We will do the same thing as image. In the then method of the select audio, if the video was not equal to null, we are doing add post frame callback show video picked, and the recipient name the video file, and the send video message and navigator pop to remove the bottom model sheet from the screen. And also we are setting the is show attach window to false, so that the is show attach window is no more visible when the video was sent. And for the GIF, what we're gonna do, directly call the send GIF message in here. And I was talking about the GIF API key, like from where you can take this GIF API key. Simply go to the browser and search for the Giphy developers, and go to the Giphy developers and go to the dashboard. After signing to the Giphy, and in the dashboard, what you have to do, simply create an app where I already have created an app and I'm using the ID of that. You have to take this API key and pass it in here as API key while picking the GIF. So that will be your API key, and that's where you can take the API from. So after taking this API key, you are good to go with this picking the GIF, and this will be working as expected in the single chat page. And lastly, to display all these messages in the message layout, what we're gonna do here is we are calling the text in here. So we have to pass one more parameter in here, that would be of type string message type, and in the message layout we have to pass the message type as the message.message type. The same for the other message layout, and here in the message layout, now here what we are gonna do with deal with this padding first. So if the message type was equal to text message, simply we will give some space from the right to have the space for this time. Otherwise we will simply give the white space. And for the text, here we will return the message type widget, which is internally dealing with all the types of the messages and like how each message will be displayed when sent. So after this, I think we are done with this. We have to how to start the application and go for the testing. So how to start the application, and Also confirm one more thing in the Android app. Inside the source file, main Android manifest file, we don't have the permissions Android added for recording the audio. So we need to add the record audio permission in here. And for the iOS, we need to go to the iOS, Flutter, open the iOS module in the Xcode. So once the Xcode has been opened, you have to go to the runner, and inside the info, you have to open it as source code. And here we added the NS context usage phone description. Now you have to add the NS microphone usage so that it will also allow us to record the audio. After this has been done, simply you have to close it. And when the permissions are added, we have to close the main.dart and run it again. So when the application runs successfully after adding the permissions, we have to navigate to SingleChatPage and go to the conversation. So this time, let's try to send different message. For example, let's say I want to send an image. I click this and I select this image. So a bottom model sheet appears where I have selected this image. I can click this back. I got the recipient name. When I send this, this will disappear, and once the message is uploaded to the Firebase storage, you can see it's loading in here, and you can see we got the message sent it in here. So sending image message is working properly, and now it's time to send the video message. Here it is having some issues, so let's go to the SingleChatPage back, and here we need to increase its size of the attached window. It must be 320. Ctrl S to hard reload and close this render flex. And when the hard reload completes, when you click this, it will be fixed like that. Now when I click this video, this will take me here to the videos where I have 10-second videos here. I will select this, and here I can play this video. I can pause this video, and I can send this video. And once it's uploaded to the Firebase storage, it will be loaded like that, and I can play it here, pause it in here. So that is all doing by the message type widget. And now let's try to send the GIF. So when you click this GIF, this will take you in here where, let's say I'm selecting any GIF. Let's say this one, and let's say once it's loaded, I will click this done, and it's sent it here. And once it's complete, we have successfully sent 3 types of messages: the image, video, and the GIF, and the text is also sent. And the last remaining one is sending the audio message. So when I click this, this will be converted into this, and let's say I say something in here and it's recorded, and when I click this back, so it's come back to this state and audio is sent. And when I click this, it will play all the recording that it records. So in the emulator, it might not directly work properly, but in the real device, it will work. Because I already have tested in my real device, it's working. But in emulator, that's why it's behaving like this. So we have sent it successfully 4 types of messages. That is now image, video, and the GIF, and the audio, and the text message. So it's 5 now. And in the next video, we will go for sending the audio. Like when I do this, so I have to take some action on that and show some UI in here to reply to some message, image, or any type of image that we want to reply to. And then we will also implement the seen message. For example, I send this image, and if other users comes into the SingleChatPage and he's seen this message, so this will become the blue tick. And I will also implement the online and offline status in the next video, and also sending the emoji when you click this. So that will be the task for the next video, as this video gets longer. So I think we need to finish this, and the remaining task of the chat will be done in the next video. And the last thing that I want to do here is that in the message layout, we can do to delete the message in here. For example, in the on long press, we will display an alert dialog passing the context, and when on tap is called, we will call the delete message passing the sender UID, recipient UID, which means the user we are chatting to, in our messages, that specific message ID, and when it's completed, the navigator pop will call to remove the dialog box from the screen, and it will, in the confirm title, we will do the delete, and here, are you sure you want to delete this message? And the same dialog box will be copied and pasted in the on long press of the other message if we want to delete other user message only for the for me, so it will be deleted also. So now let's how to start this application and test this latest functionality, and we will go for the next steps like online offline status, emoji keyboard, seen message, and replying all that will be done and the next last video of the chat feature, and then we will move to the status feature and lastly to the call feature, and with that our WhatsApp clone will be completed and we will happily go to the week 6 of creating the Google Map clone. So that is what we are gonna do, and you can see we got the audio recent text message as we have sent the audio in here. So let's say I want to delete this audio message. I will hold it and it's saying, are you sure you want to delete this message? When I do so, it will be deleted like that. And if I want to delete this text message of the W, I will do this and it will be deleted like that. So we have done the tasks of today with in the chat feature, and in the next video we will do the other tasks that I just said. So that's it for this video. If you found this video helpful, thumbs up a like and subscribe for daily updates. Also drop down all of your confusions in the comment sections or directly DM me on Instagram or LinkedIn. That's it. See you in the next one.